Our friend Jess from Virginia is going to explain to you how the most recent Supreme Court ruling could help our side of the aisle out when it comes to the recent Virginia Supreme Court ruling. Watch this and kind of noodle on what she's saying for a moment here.
Want to hear something super ironic? When SCOVA overturned the will of the voters here in Virginia and threw out more than 3 million ballots in a referendum to redistrict that went to the yes vote by nearly 3.5 points, I have been inundated in my comment section with individuals saying, nana nana boo boo, basically, like, haha, we won. They're the same people, however, that are cheering on the recent SCOTUS decision around Louisiana's maps and the fact that they were given permission to halt an ongoing election that was in the early voting stages so that they can redistrict their maps to racially gerrymander versus partisan gerrymandering. Now, what's interesting is the fact that our SCOVA threw out our ballot measure because they claimed that early voting is the same as election day, and that when the General Assembly from last year voted for the constitutional amendment for redistricting, an election had already transpired because we were in early voting. However, SCOTUS's recent decision within the last 2 weeks says the opposite. It says that our U.S. Constitution declares that election day is the only day, and it's one day, and that the early voting that was happening in Louisiana can be nullified at any point because it's not election day yet. And they can throw out all of those ballots. So when you hear us say that we are appealing to the Supreme Court because of the fact that within the same week, SCOVA has contradicted SCOTUS on a U.S. constitutional argument, and this means it appears that the law and the Constitution are actually on our side of the argument. Now, I'm not saying I trust SCOTUS because,
Right.
well, I'm a human in 2026.
Right.
But what I will say is, based on their most recent decision, SCOVA got it wrong. And if they hear our case, we will likely win, which means these maps will remain. Now, I'm still of the opinion that we are going to be smooth sailing to 9-2 and maybe even 10-1 with the currently drawn maps because
Fingers crossed.
we've watched election after election after election go upwards of 12 plus points, the opposite direction since the 2024 presidential election, with Democrats overwhelmingly performing. But regardless, it's the fact that the same crew that is nana nana booing in my comment section is cheering on the SCOTUS decision that quite literally contradicts the SCOVA decision. Make it make sense.
Making it make sense is something that I can't possibly do, nor can I trust that the Supreme Court of the United States is going to side with you guys if they even hear the case at all. I am very hopeful that what you're saying about the current maps causing Virginia to swing heavily blue is true. I'm hopeful that that's an outcome that we see on election day, but does this Supreme Court have any integrity whatsoever? Are they willing to stand by the decisions that they have just put out when it comes to your case? Because it would mean Virginia gets to redraw, and that is clearly something that that the judiciary that is in place because of Donald Trump doesn't want to have happen. But will they have the integrity to hear this case and sort of come to the rescue?